The morning sky over Earth was a canvas of gold and amber, the sun's first rays spilling over cities still stirring awake. Birds sang, traffic hummed. A normal day by all appearances. Yet far above the planet's atmosphere, the calm was a fragile illusion. Without warning, colossal shadows blotted out the sun. Millions across the globe looked up, shielding their eyes as a gargantuan fleet appeared in Earth's orbit, ships unlike any human craft. Their hulls were dark and jagged, like living mountains in space, pulsating with eerie lights that flickered like distant thunder. No alarms, no warnings, just silence. Governments scrambled to react. Military satellites pivoted to face the newcomers, but Earth's communication networks went strangely quiet. A global broadcast crackled to life with a voice neither human nor alien. It was something else. Calm, measured, and cold. "Surrender your sovereignty," it intoned, reverberating inside every receiver, every device. "Submit to the coalition or face extinction." Panic blossomed swiftly. Markets crashed. Cities filled with frightened masses staring skyward, their faces pale as the sun disappeared behind the encroaching armada. In Washington, the president's hand trembled as he gripped the edge of the podium. Military leaders argued fiercely. Diplomats debated desperately. But beneath the chaos was a question nobody could answer. What did the coalition want? Captain Elena Ress stood on the deck of the Ardent Shield, Earth's newest warship, her jaw clenched as the alien fleet's silhouette darkened the viewport. "We can't let them just take the sky," she said to her crew. "Humanity doesn't back down. Not now. Not ever." Her words echoed through the tense silence of the bridge. Across the globe, resistance sparks ignited in underground cells. Engineers, hackers, and warriors preparing for the fight of their lives. Yet even as fleets mobilized and weapons charged, a different fear took root. What if Earth's decision to resist was exactly what the coalition expected? As night fell, the alien ships began to pulse with strange energy. The sky burned, not now with fire but with a deadly promise. The first salvo was coming and humanity's choice was clear: fight or perish. The void exploded into chaos. Across distant colonies, frontiers far from Earth's watchful gaze, the skies erupted in fire. Alien warships descended like meteors, unleashing torrents of plasma that swallowed cities whole. Communications went dark one by one. Screams turned to silence. On the burning surface of Helios Prime, Commander Leah Vec gritted her teeth as blaring alarms shattered the night. Flames reflected in her visor as orbital bombardments turned her home into a blazing inferno. "We're losing the outer defenses," her lieutenant shouted over the comms. "They're tearing through the fleet." Fighter pilots weaved desperately between enemy beams, their engines leaving trails of glowing embers against the ink-black sky. Explosions rocked the warships, metal twisted, and hulls ruptured, doomed stars burning in an unforgiving sea. Back on Earth, the Ardent Shield shuddered violently. Captain Elena Ress stared at the growing starfield of wreckage, the debris of humanity's first line of defense. But amidst the carnage, a spark flickered. In hidden bunkers and shadowed rooms, scientists worked feverishly, piecing together alien technology scavenged from the wreckage. Engineers pushed past exhaustion, their fingers dancing over consoles, crafting a weapon unlike any before. "We have one chance," whispered Dr. Malik, eyes wild with exhaustion and hope. "If we can unleash this, the tide may turn." Yet, even as they prepared their secret weapon, the enemy's shadow crept closer. Fleets swarmed through star systems, conquering or destroying anything that resisted. But humanity would not go quietly. Underground resistance cells launched sabotage missions, striking at supply lines and communication hubs. In the darkness, a new kind of war ignited, one fueled by desperation and fierce defiance. "We may burn," Captain Ress vowed, gripping the armrest as the ship groaned under another hit. "But we will rise from these ashes." As the stars burned overhead and colonies fell, a stubborn ember of resistance kindled across the scattered remnants of humanity. The war had begun in fire, and the question lingered like smoke. How long could humanity endure before it was consumed? The dust of shattered worlds settled like a cold shroud over humanity's scattered colonies. Communications remained fractured, supply lines severed. Hope, fragile as the last flicker of a dying star, flickered in the hearts of those who refused to yield. In orbit around the devastated planet Arcadia, the last surviving human fleet limped, scarred hulls reflecting the ghostly light of distant suns. Captain Elena Ress stood rigid on the bridge of the ardent shield, her gaze locked on the vast emptiness ahead. "We're running out of time," she muttered. The silence was deafening, broken only by the low hum of failing systems. But in the shadows deep within Earth's clandestine orbital labs, a different battle raged. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked feverishly around a colossal construct, an untested hybrid warship designed to rewrite the rules of engagement. They called her the Phoenix. Dr. Malik's fingers trembled over the control panel. "If this fails," he whispered, "humanity falls." Elsewhere, dissent brewed. Political factions clashed bitterly, some advocating surrender, others demanding relentless resistance. The weight of survival pressed on every soul. Meanwhile, whispers spread of strange phenomena around the Phoenix. Distortions in space-time, unexplainable energy surges, signs that this weapon might harbor power beyond human understanding. On the front lines, battle-weary pilots patched together battered ships, trading stories of narrow escapes and lost comrades. In darkened corridors, they dared to hope. The Phoenix was humanity's last spark, and in the cold void, against impossible odds, humanity vowed to rise. Steel forged from ash, defiance carved from despair, because when the sky burns and fleets rise, only iron wills survive. The silence before the storm was shattered by the roar of engines and the blinding flare of thrusters. The Phoenix emerged from Earth's orbital shipyard like a blazing comet, its sleek hull glowing with pulsating energy that whispered of unimaginable power. Captain Elena Ress stood at the helm, her eyes steely, every muscle taut with resolve. Around her, the crew moved like shadows, silent, focused, ready. "Today," Elena whispered, "we show the galaxy what humanity is made of." As the Phoenix slipped through the void, it became a beacon of hope and defiance. Alien warships turned their cold eyes toward the newcomer, their weapons charging with lethal intent. The first salvo erupted like thunder, plasma bolts screaming through the darkness, lighting up the starfield with deadly beauty. But the Phoenix moved with uncanny grace, weaving through the storm like a dancer among flames. On board, warning alarms blared as strange distortions rippled across the ship's hull, cracks in reality itself. "Captain," the science officer reported, voice tense. "The spatial anomalies are intensifying. This weapon's power, it's unstable." But there was no turning back. With a roar, the Phoenix unleashed its secret weapon, a cascading wave of energy that shredded enemy shields and sent fleets spiraling into chaos. The battlefield erupted into chaos, a violent dance of light and destruction. Yet amid the triumph, shadows lurked. The crew whispered of strange visions and eerie echoes that haunted the ship's corridors. Victory came at a price. The Phoenix had ignited not just the enemy's fury, but a dangerous unknown. And, as the flames of war spread across the stars, humanity learned this: to wield fire is to risk being burned. The Phoenix glided through the void, its hull scarred but unbroken. Victory's glow was fading, replaced by a cold shadow, one that crept not from alien weapons, but from the hearts of those it carried. Captain Elena Ress felt it first, a whispered doubt in the silence, a glint of betrayal behind loyal eyes. Reports came in, strange malfunctions, sabotaged systems, missing supplies. The enemy had found a new weapon, treachery within. In the dim corridors of the ardent shield, whispers spread like wildfire. A trusted admiral had vanished, taking secrets with him. Fear clutched the crew's throat, suspicion poisoning every glance. "Who can we trust?" Elena demanded in the war room, eyes blazing. "The war isn't just outside our hull, it's inside." Meanwhile, back on Earth, political factions seized the chaos. Calls for peace turned venomous and protests erupted in shattered cities. The weight of survival twisted into paranoia. In hidden chambers, Elena's closest allies worked feverishly to uncover the traitor, racing against time as sabotage threatened to doom them all. Yet even as trust fractured, a darker truth emerged. One, tied to the Phoenix's strange powers. Crew members reported vivid nightmares, voices calling through the ship's circuits, shadows flickering at the edge of vision. Was the weapon itself becoming a prison? Or worse, an enemy? The battle for humanity's soul was no longer fought with lasers and shields, but with secrets and shadows. And in the endless night of space, the greatest threat was often the one you never saw coming. The interrogation chamber was bathed in cold, flickering light, harsh and unyielding. Before it sat the captured alien commander, her eyes glowing faintly beneath a translucent helmet, calm as the void itself. Around her, human officers waited, breath held, desperate for answers. Captain Elena Ress stepped forward, her voice steady but charged. Why invade? Why bring fire and death to countless worlds? The alien's lips curled into a faint smile, not of kindness, but of knowing. You misunderstand, she said softly. This war is born of fear, fear of your kind. A murmur rippled through the room. We watched your rise, the commander continued. Your unpredictable spirit, your refusal to bow, your capacity for chaos. The coalition saw a threat, not just to power, but to order itself. Elena's heart pounded. Fear. It was a weapon wielded against humanity just as fiercely as plasma cannons or warships. We sought to contain you before your light burned too bright, the alien said, to prevent a wildfire that could consume the galaxy. The revelation shook the room. The enemy's greatest terror was humanity's indomitable will, the very thing that drove them to fight back, to resist, to survive. Outside, the Phoenix hummed ominously, its strange energies pulsing in resonance with the weight of truth. As human leaders grappled with this knowledge, spies and saboteurs moved unseen, desperate to tip the balance of war. Elena knew the stakes had never been higher. This was no longer just a battle for survival, but a test of humanity's essence. Could they prove that their unpredictable fire was a force for creation, not destruction? Or would the shadows of fear snuff out the last ember? The galaxy held its breath. The void was alive with fire. The final battle had begun. Around Earth's battered orbit, fleets collided in a thunderous symphony of light and destruction. Alien warships screamed through space, trailing clouds of smoke and burning debris, while human fighters darted through the chaos like sparks in a tempest. Captain Elena Ress stood on the Phoenix's command deck, heart hammering. Every system was pushed to its limits. The ship glowed with energy, wings of blazing light cutting through the darkness. This is it, Elena said, voice steady but fierce. Everything we've fought for comes down to this moment. The enemy's flagship loomed ahead, a massive, monstrous vessel bristling with weapons, its hull scarred from countless battles. It radiated cold menace, a dark titan of death. The Phoenix surged forward, engines blazing, its secret weapon primed for deployment. Around them, Allied ships formed a protective ring, fighting desperately to hold the line. Laser fire carved jagged streaks through the blackness. Explosions blossomed like deadly stars, illuminating the wreckage of shattered cruisers and fighters alike. Amid the chaos, Elena's crew fought with grim determination, pilots coordinating precise strikes, engineers racing to repair critical damage, soldiers bracing for boarding actions. But the cost was clear. Ships were lost. Friends vanished into the void. The sky burned with sacrifice. At the heart of the battle, the Phoenix unleashed its final assault, a titanic blast of energy that tore through the enemy flagship's defenses, crippling the behemoth. Yet, as the enemy ship began to break apart, a surge of power rippled outward, an ominous ripple that threatened to engulf everything. Elena's voice cut through the storm. Brace for impact. This is our last stand. The Phoenix and its allies held fast, their unity a shield against oblivion. When the dust settled, the enemy fleet was shattered, retreating into the dark. But victory came at a price no one could ignore. The war had forged heroes and scars that would endure forever, and humanity's final flame burned brighter not just in the stars but in the hearts of all who survived. The silence after the storm was deafening. Stars glittered coldly over the scarred battleground where once titanic fleets had clashed. The void bore the scars of war, smoldering wreckage drifting in endless darkness. Captain Elena Ress stood, alone on the bridge of the Phoenix, gazing out at the shattered remains of the enemy's armada. The ship's hull bore the burns and dents of battle, but it still held steady, an unyielding beacon amid the ruin. Around Earth, humanity began to rebuild. Cities flickered back to life. Survivors emerged from shelters, eyes lifted once more, to the sky, not with fear, but with cautious hope. The war was over. The cost had been immeasurable, but humanity's spirit, forged in fire and tempered by loss, endured. In the quiet moments after victory, Elena reflected on what had been learned. The coalition had feared humanity's unpredictable fire, the chaos and passion that made them dangerous. But that fire was also their greatest strength, the will to survive, to fight for freedom, to rise again from the ashes. The Phoenix was more than a ship. It was a symbol, a legacy of defiance, sacrifice, and unity. As the sun rose over a healing world, Elena's voice echoed in her mind. We are the spark that cannot be extinguished. And so humanity stepped forward, not as conquered, but as conquerors of their own fate. The sky had burned, fleets had risen, worlds had trembled. But, in the end, humanity had made its decision to fight, to endure, to become the light that would guide the cosmos.